How does a drink created in the 19th century remain culturally relevant in a world where consumer tastes, health priorities, media habits, and lifestyles keep changing? Coca-Cola was introduced in 1886. Since then, entire industries have risen and disappeared. Advertising moved from painted signs and newspapers to television, social media, and personalized digital campaigns. Consumers became more conscious of sugar ingredients, sustainability, and personal health. New categories such as bottled water, sports drinks, energy drinks, ready-to-drink coffee, and functional beverages transformed what people expected from a beverage company. And yet Coca-Cola remained visible. Its name still appears in restaurants, supermarket stadiums, convenience stores, and homes across the world. Its red color script logo and distinctive bottle shape are recognized across cultures and generations. Few brands have maintained that level of familiarity for so long. The obvious explanation is that Coca-Cola simply protected what made it successful. A famous formula, a consistent visual identity, enormous advertising budgets, a distribution system capable of placing the product almost everywhere. According to this view, Coca-Cola survived because it resisted change while competitors and trends came and went. But that explanation leaves out something important. The Coca-Cola people drink today exists in a world that the company's founders could not have imagined. The occasions in which people consume beverages have changed. The meaning of refreshment has changed. The channels through which brands reach consumers have changed. Even the definition of a beverage company has changed. Coca-Cola itself has changed with them. Its advertising has moved through different cultural languages. Its packaging has been redesigned and adapted. Its products have expanded beyond the original drink. Its portfolio now reaches consumers who want different flavors, different levels of sugar, different formats, and entirely different beverage categories. Even one of its most recognizable assets, the contour bottle introduced in 1915, has not remained frozen in time. The form became a symbol of the brand, but the way it has been produced, packaged, presented, and used has continued to evolve. This creates a deeper question. If Coca-Cola has changed so much, why does it still feel familiar? And if it has remained so familiar, how has it avoided becoming outdated? That tension sits at the center of every long-lasting global brand. Change too little, and the brand risks losing relevance. Change too much, and it risks losing the identity that made people care in the first place. Coca-Cola has had to solve both problems at once. Its longevity cannot be explained only by nostalgia advertising or the strength of a secret formula. Those advantages matter, but they do not fully explain how the company continued to connect with new consumers as culture's markets and expectations shifted around it. To understand that, we need to separate what Coca-Cola has protected from what it has repeatedly been willing to change. The foundation of that balance was established long before Coca-Cola became one of the world's most valuable brands. From its earliest years, the company did not simply sell a beverage. It built a collection of recognizable assets that could survive changes in products' markets and generations. The Spencerian script logo, the distinctive red color, and later the contour bottle all became signals that consumers could identify almost instantly. These were not decorative elements. They reduced uncertainty. A customer did not need to read a label to recognize the brand. Over time, Coca-Cola expanded that recognition beyond visual identity. It consistently associated itself with moments of celebration, sharing, refreshment, and optimism. Different decades brought different campaigns, but the emotional territory remained surprisingly stable. That approach became especially visible in the company's global marketing. During the 1930s, Coca-Cola popularized the now famous modern image of Santa Claus through advertising created by illustrator Haddon Sundblom. Decades later, campaigns such as "I would like to buy the world a Coke" reflected the cultural atmosphere of the early 1970s by emphasizing unity and shared experiences. These campaigns looked very different from one another, yet both strengthened similar emotional associations around the brand rather than changing what the brand fundamentally represented. At the same time, Coca-Cola was building another competitive advantage that received far less public attention. Instead of attempting to own and operate every factory around the world, the company developed what is now known as the Coca-Cola system. The parent company focused primarily on producing beverage concentrates, managing brands, driving innovation, and investing in marketing. Independent bottling partners manufactured, packaged, distributed, and sold finished products within their local markets. This structure created an unusual combination of global consistency and local flexibility. Consumers could expect to recognize Coca-Cola almost anywhere in the world, while local bottling partners adapted production, logistics, distribution, and execution to the realities of their own markets. According to the company, this global system now delivers approximately 2.2 billion servings every day across more than 200 countries and territories. That operating model became increasingly valuable as consumer behavior grew more fragmented. The beverage industry no longer revolved around a single definition of refreshment. In one market, consumers wanted smaller package sizes. In another, premium products gained momentum. Elsewhere, convenience stores, restaurants, supermarkets, vending machines, and online grocery services all required different approaches to distribution and merchandising. The company also had to respond to cultural differences that could not be managed through one universal advertising campaign. Holiday, sports, music, family traditions, and social habits varied widely across regions. Remaining globally recognizable while feeling locally relevant required far more than translating advertisements into different languages. By the beginning of the 21st century, however, a much larger challenge emerged. Consumers were becoming increasingly concerned about sugar consumption, nutrition, and healthier lifestyles. Bottled water, ready-to-drink tea, coffee, sports drinks, and other beverage categories were growing rapidly. The market itself was expanding beyond traditional carbonated soft drinks. A distribution system could place Coca-Cola almost everywhere. A powerful brand could capture attention almost instantly. But neither of those strengths alone could guarantee that consumers would continue choosing the company if their preferences moved toward entirely different kinds of beverages. Faced with those shifts, Coca-Cola reached a point where relying on the success of its flagship product was no longer enough. The challenge was not that consumers had stopped drinking beverages. The challenge was that they were drinking a wider variety of them, for more occasions, and with different expectations. Someone looking for hydration might choose bottled water. Someone leaving the gym might prefer a sports drink. A commuter might buy ready-to-drink coffee instead of a carbonated soft drink. Families increasingly compared sugar content. Governments in several markets introduced taxes or regulations aimed at reducing sugar consumption. The beverage industry itself was becoming more fragmented. For Coca-Cola, this was more than a marketing problem. It required redefining what kind of company it wanted to become. One important step came in 2016 with the introduction of the one brand strategy. Rather than treating Coca-Cola Original Taste, Diet Coke, Coca-Cola Zero Sugar, and other variants as separate identities, the company brought them together under a single global brand architecture. The familiar red identity remained at the center, while consumers could choose products that better matched their individual preferences. This change addressed an important reality. Consumer needs were becoming more diverse, but the company wanted those choices to strengthen the overall Coca-Cola brand instead of competing against one another. An even broader transformation followed. In 2017, Coca-Cola publicly described itself as becoming a total beverage company. That phrase represented more than a new corporate slogan. It reflected a strategic shift that appeared consistently throughout the company's communications with investors and annual reports. Growth would no longer depend primarily on selling more carbonated soft drinks. Instead, the company aimed to compete across a much wider range of beverage occasions. The portfolio expanded through both internal innovation and acquisitions. Costa Coffee gave Coca-Cola a meaningful position in the global coffee market. Brands such as Innocent strengthened its presence in premium juices and smoothies. Fairlife expanded its reach into dairy and high-protein nutrition. Bodyrmor increased its exposure to sports hydration. Topo Chico helped the company participate more effectively in premium sparkling water. Each addition responded to a different consumer need, rather than attempting to force every customer toward the same product. The company's operating model evolved alongside its portfolio. Over several years, Coca-Cola completed the refranchising of most company-owned bottling operations in the United States. This allowed local bottling partners to focus on manufacturing and distribution, while the parent company concentrated more heavily on brand management innovation, consumer insights, and long-term portfolio strategy. These decisions shared a common pattern. Instead of defending one product category against every new trend, Coca-Cola built the ability to participate in changing consumer behavior wherever it appeared. That distinction matters. If the company's strategy had simply been to convince consumers to keep drinking more traditional Coke, many of these investments would have made little sense. Instead, Coca-Cola invested in categories that sometimes competed with its own historical strengths. From the outside, these moves can look like a series of unrelated responses to changing markets. Coffee here, sports drinks there, water, dairy, tea, and premium beverages somewhere else. But viewed together, they suggest something far more deliberate. The company was not making isolated adjustments. It was following a consistent pattern that would only become visible once the individual decisions were connected into a single strategic logic. The pattern becomes much clearer once the individual decisions are viewed through a different lens. Most discussions about Coca-Cola focus on consistency. The logo remained recognizable. The color stayed red. The bottle remained iconic. The brand continued appearing at global sporting events, family gatherings, restaurants, and celebrations. Those observations are accurate, but they describe the outcome rather than the strategy. The company's real discipline was not preserving every part of the business. It was deciding which parts should never change and which parts should always remain open to change. That distinction explains why so many of Coca-Cola's seemingly unrelated decisions point in the same direction. Take the Share a Coke campaign. Replacing the famous logo on millions of bottles with people's names appeared, at first glance, to challenge one of the company's strongest visual assets. Yet consumers still recognized the product immediately. The campaign invited personal participation without abandoning the broader identity of the brand. Years later, Coca-Cola brought the campaign back to more than 120 countries with localized names and expressions, demonstrating that the underlying idea could continue evolving across cultures and generations. The same principle appeared in the one-brand strategy. Instead of allowing different Coca-Cola products to compete as disconnected brands, the company reinforced a single identity while giving consumers more ways to engage with it. The visual system became simpler, but consumer choice expanded. Portfolio expansion followed the same logic. Costa Coffee was not purchased because coffee resembled cola. Fairlife was not acquired because milk competed directly with carbonated soft drinks. BODYARMOR was not added because athletes suddenly wanted traditional cola after exercising. Each brand addressed a different consumer occasion. Together, they expanded the company's ability to remain present wherever beverage preferences moved. This reveals an important difference between protecting a product and protecting a brand. A product competes within one category. A brand can extend across many categories if consumers continue recognizing what it represents. Coca-Cola gradually shifted more attention toward protecting that broader meaning. Its operating model reinforced the same approach. The global company maintained stewardship of the brand, long-term innovation, and portfolio direction. Bottling partners adapted manufacturing, packaging, pricing, distribution, and execution to local market conditions. That separation allowed two things to happen simultaneously. Consumers encountered a familiar global brand. Local markets received solutions that reflected their own economic conditions, retail structures, and consumer behavior. Consistency and adaptation were not competing priorities. They became complementary parts of the same system. Seen this way, Coca-Cola's history no longer looks like a series of defensive reactions against changing consumer trends. The acquisitions, marketing campaigns, product innovations, packaging changes, and organizational restructuring all support a single pattern. The company repeatedly adjusted the expression of its brand while protecting the elements that allowed consumers to recognize and trust it. That is why focusing only on what remained the same creates an incomplete picture. The more revealing question is not why Coca-Cola avoided change. It is how the company learned to change repeatedly without asking consumers to relearn what Coca-Cola meant every time the market evolved. That is ultimately what separates Coca-Cola from many brands that once appeared equally dominant. The company did not survive because it successfully predicted every consumer trend. It did not remain relevant because every new product became a success. And it certainly did not preserve its position by refusing to change. The evidence points in a different direction. Across more than a century, Coca-Cola repeatedly adjusted products, marketing, packaging, portfolio strategy, organizational structure, and market execution. It expanded beyond carbonated soft drinks into water, coffee, dairy, sports drinks, premium beverages, and other categories. It reorganized its bottling system to focus more heavily on brand management and long-term innovation. It refreshed global campaigns while allowing local markets to adapt execution to their own cultures. Yet through all of those changes, consumers rarely felt they were encountering a completely different company. That consistency did not come from keeping everything the same. It came from maintaining a clear understanding of what deserved protection. The company protected its recognizable identity. It protected the emotional associations that generations of consumers connected with the brand. It protected the trust that made a Coca-Cola product immediately familiar almost anywhere in the world. Around that stable core, almost everything else remained open to improvement. Products evolved. Package sizes changed. Sugar levels were reduced in many markets. Marketing language reflected new generations. The portfolio expanded into entirely different beverage occasions. Distribution adapted to new retail environments. Each adjustment addressed a changing market, but none required abandoning the identity consumers already understood. Seen together, these decisions reveal that Coca-Cola's competitive advantage is not simply the strength of one famous brand. It is the company's ability to distinguish between identity and execution. Identity provides continuity. Execution provides adaptation. Confusing those two ideas creates opposite risks. A company that treats every tradition as untouchable eventually becomes disconnected from changing consumer behavior. A company that changes everything in pursuit of every new trend eventually loses the recognition and trust that made it valuable in the first place. Coca-Cola has spent decades navigating the narrow space between those extremes. Its history demonstrates that longevity is not created by resisting change, nor is it created by constantly reinventing the brand. It comes from changing with discipline. That perspective also explains why Coca-Cola continues investing across such a wide range of beverage categories today. The objective is not simply to defend one iconic drink. It is to remain relevant whenever, wherever, and however consumers choose to drink, while ensuring that the company's identity remains immediately recognizable regardless of which product reaches their hands. Perhaps that is why Coca-Cola still feels remarkably familiar after more than 100 years, even though the world surrounding it has been transformed many times over. The brand endured not because it escaped change, but because it learned that lasting consistency is built by preserving the meaning people recognize while continuously reshaping the way that meaning is delivered.